You ever try to read someone's soul through logic? It's like trying to decode music using a calculator. You count the beats, measure the tones, chart the scales, and still miss the ache in the melody. That's what men do when they try to understand women. They treat emotions like equations, feelings like faulty code to debug. But the human heart doesn't speak in numbers. It hums, it trembles, it misleads, it hides. He tells this story, standing in an empty studio chalkboard behind him, filled with scribbles that look more like confessions than formulas. Imagine, he says, trying to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. You twist and turn, convinced you're close. Then you remove the blindfold and see a mess worse than before. That's what happens when men use male logic to interpret female emotion. You're not decoding her, you're rearranging illusions. You think love is built on symmetry, on effort. But in her world, it's movement that matters. Emotion that shifts. Connection that breathes. Modern dating has made this blindness worse. We live in a time where conversations feel like transactions and attention is a currency more valuable than truth. The more men chase certainty, the more the ground beneath them moves. Because in the emotional economy, certainty kills attraction. Stillness feels like death. Julian leans forward, lowering his voice. Most men are running the wrong software. They're using logic to solve emotion. His tone isn't bitter, it's clinical, resigned, like someone reading the autopsy of love itself. He compares it to running iOS on an Android phone the code can't execute, no matter how hard you try. And yet, men keep pressing buttons, updating apps, reinstalling hope. Women, he says, are not deceivers, they're survivors of an emotional landscape built on adaptation. Their minds are not hiding secrets, they're running programs written by centuries of survival, status, and security. The danger, he warns, isn't that men can't understand women. It's that they believe they already do. That illusion blinds them more than ignorance ever could. He turns off the chalkboard light, and the room sinks into half shadow. If you think love is fair, he says softly, you're not paying attention. Julian begins again, his voice steady but edged with exhaustion. Men and women aren't two sides of the same coin, he says. They're two different currencies that stopped exchanging value the moment society changed the rules. He steps closer to the camera, chalk in hand. On the board, he draws two human silhouettes, one sharp, angular, rooted, the other fluid, curved, shifting. Men evolved to build and protect, he explains, to structure chaos into something livable. Women evolved to sense and secure, to read the invisible, to ensure survival through connection. It isn't about superiority, he says, it's about function. Two operating systems designed for different environments, now trying to run on the same device called modern life. Men were built for scarcity, Julian continues. Women were built for uncertainty. But the world has flipped. Scarcity is gone, uncertainty remains. And so, the code misfires. The modern man still seeks to prove his worth through effort, stability, protection. The modern woman no longer needs protection, she needs stimulation, emotion, elevation. The things that once defined love now register as boredom. Julian pauses, letting the silence carry weight. That's why so many men are confused when they do everything right and still lose her. He wipes the board clean with one hand, because her programming isn't about fairness, it's about survival. He tells a story from his research. A man named Noah, 42, married for 12 years. Stable job, loyal heart, no scandal. His wife left him one morning with a single note. I don't feel anything anymore. No betrayal, no cruelty, just emotional extinction. Julian's eyes drift away as he speaks. She didn't fall out of love, he says. Her system recalibrated. He explains how, in neuroscience, the female brain links emotional fulfillment to novelty and emotional feedback loops. When the emotional reward flatlines, her mind interprets it as danger, like starvation. Her nervous system screams for renewal, Julian says. It's not betrayal, it's biology. But here's the cruel paradox. Men think in structure. They want peace, predictability, loyalty. Yet women, shaped by evolution to read volatility, equate peace with stagnation. What men call security, women often feel as silence. While he thinks, she feels, Julian murmurs. While he solves, she remembers. While he builds, she measures the warmth of what he's built. The camera zooms closer on his face, haunted, analytical, almost pleading. You can't reason with different software, he says. You can only learn the language or stop pretending you already speak it. Julian turns the chalkboard around. On its back, already half covered in chalk dust, 4 words are written in sharp white lines. Feeling, extraction, comparison, possibility. These, he says, are the invisible codes that guide the female mind. He isn't reading from a script. It sounds more like confession than lecture. Every decision, every attraction, every retreat runs through these 4 silent calculations. He circles the first one. Feeling. How does this make me feel right now? Not next week, not next year. The present emotional temperature defines her choices. To her, feelings are not reactions, they're compasses. When she feels disconnected, her brain reads it as threat, not boredom. When she feels alive, it reads as safety. The paradox? The safer she feels, the less alive she becomes. Julian's hand moves to the next word, extraction. What can I draw from this moment time? Attention, affection, validation, protection, status. Not because she's manipulative, but because her mind was designed to measure survival through what can be secured. For her ancestors, affection meant alliance, attention meant safety. Today, affection means validation, attention means existence. Then he underlines comparison. Every woman lives in a silent arena of mirrors, he says. Despite the talk of sisterhood, comparison is oxygen. She doesn't measure happiness in absolute terms, but relative ones. She doesn't ask, am I loved? She asks, am I loved more than she is? He gestures toward a projection behind him, a collage of glowing phone screens, women scrolling, faces lit by filtered perfection. Social media turned comparison into a 24-hour job. She's no longer competing with her friends. She's competing with an algorithm that feeds her other people's happiness as proof of her own insufficiency. And finally, he circles the last word, possibility. She is always asking, can I do better? This isn't greed, it's evolution. Her brain scans for higher ground, the same way a prey animal scans for predators. Safety and elevation are indistinguishable impulses. Julian leans against the board, quiet for a long moment. Men see loyalty as a line, he says. Women feel it as a gradient. To a man, staying means faith. To a woman, staying means she hasn't yet found a higher frequency to tune to. He pauses, letting that settle. The room feels colder now, the hum of fluorescent lights echoing faintly. You can't call this evil, he says, finally. It's adaptation. The female brain didn't evolve for happiness. It evolved for survival inside systems built by men. It learned to navigate emotion like a marketplace. And the currency is feeling. He looks into the camera calm, analytical, but undeniably sad. The tragedy, he says, is that both genders are now bankrupt in a world where feelings are cheap and attention is infinite. Julian stands in front of a projection of 2 silhouettes, one male, one female, slowly drifting apart across a static grey background. You know what destroys relationships today? He begins softly. It's not betrayal, it's not lies, it's emotional inflation. He turns to face the camera. Every generation before us lived with less choice, less noise, less stimulation. But now, we live inside an economy of endless options. The moment love loses its thrill, we trade it like a devalued currency. Not because we stopped caring, but because our brains were never built to handle abundance. He tells a story from one of his case studies. A woman named Elena, 35. She left her husband, Daniel, after 8 years of what she described as emotional silence. 2 months later, she moved in with a man who made her feel seen. 6 months after that, she left him too this time because he was too intense. She wasn't fickle, Julian explains. She was responding to shifting emotional baselines. What once felt thrilling became ordinary. What once felt ordinary became suffocating. He draws a graph, pleasure on one axis, time on the other. It's called hedonic adaptation, he says. Every emotional high resets the standard. Stability feels like decline. Predictability feels like loss. Julian pauses, his gaze fixed on the board. So, men try harder. They give more, explain more, reassure more. But that's the mistake, because reassurance doesn't reignite attraction. It only confirms predictability. He turns off the projector. The room darkens. Men call it confusion, he continues. Women call it clarity. To them, the moment the emotional signal fades, it's not love anymore, it's duty. And duty, in the modern world, is death. Julian's voice lowers as he paces. In therapy rooms across the world, I see the same pattern repeating: good men unraveling under the weight of invisible expectations. They say, "I gave her everything. Why did she leave?" But in her mind, the moment he gave her everything, the story ended. The tension died. The narrative completed. He stops walking. And people don't stay in finished stories. On screen, old home videos flicker. A man smiling at dinner, a woman glancing away, two hands touching under candlelight, then slowly pulling apart. "We call it falling out of love," Julian says quietly. But what's really happening is a collapse of polarity. The masculine stops leading, the feminine stops responding, and the emotional field goes flat. He looks up, eyes hollow but sharp. The truth is, men build the walls of love, but women test their strength, and when the walls don't move, she stops feeling alive inside them. Then he adds, almost in a whisper, "That's not cruelty. That's biology trying to feel eternity inside a temporary body." The screen fades to black, then back in. Julian sits alone at a steel desk, lamplight cutting through the dark. He speaks slower now, as though each word is chosen with surgical precision. "Every emotion," he says, "is a message from the body trying to secure safety. But when safety becomes guaranteed, emotion begins searching for meaning instead." He draws a line between two words on paper: survival significance. "This is the transition that broke the system," Julian continues. "For centuries, women's psychology evolved to ensure physical protection. But now, in a world where survival is outsourced to governments, jobs, technology, their internal code keeps running. The same instincts that once ensured survival now demand validation, attention, proof of emotional worth." He looks up. "It's not manipulation, it's misalignment, a Stone Age algorithm running in a digital age." He opens a folder of psychological studies, data points, percentages, MRI scans of emotional response patterns. "We know the female brain lights up in the limbic system when love feels uncertain. Uncertainty equals engagement. Predictability equals numbness." Julian lets that hang in the air, then adds, "So when she tests you, when she withdraws, when she questions, it's not always about control. It's her nervous system checking if the connection still matters." He stands, walking toward a transparent screen that now shows scrolling words: guilt, fear, desire. "These are the emotional firewalls," he explains. "They evolved because women couldn't fight or flee the way men could, so they learned to control the battlefield psychologically. Guilt to soften you, fear to direct you, desire to keep you invested." He pauses. "Men experience emotion as storms. Women use emotion as weather patterns. They know how to make it rain when they need growth, and when to withdraw warmth to create hunger." The room flickers with projections, images of mothers, lovers, workers, scrolling feeds of curated perfection. "Our culture turned emotional extraction into entertainment," Julian says. "Influence, attention, validation, all forms of emotional currency. The irony is, both genders are running bankrupt. Men seek purpose in proving worth. Women seek safety in emotional proof." He leans back against the desk, voice dropping almost to a whisper. "We keep calling it love, but what we're really describing is two nervous systems trying to synchronize across different operating codes." Julian sighs and looks directly into the camera. The tragedy isn't that women are manipulative or men are blind. It's that both are running ancient survival scripts in a world that no longer requires survival, but still punishes emotional honesty. He exhales, the lamplight flickering on his face. "We've mistaken programming for personality, and that confusion is tearing us apart." The final scene opens in silence. Julian standing at the edge of an empty street at dawn, grey light breaking through the fog. He doesn't look like a lecturer anymore. He looks like someone who has spent too long staring into the mechanics of human pain. "You can't fix a system that was never meant to make you happy," he begins quietly. "You can only understand it and decide how to move within it." His breath fogs in the cold air. Men keep asking, "How do I make her stay?" But that's the wrong question. The right one is, "Why do I keep needing her to?" He walks slowly, hands in pockets, voice steady but heavy. "We've been told that love is partnership, but most of us are just bargaining with our loneliness, trying to find someone whose ghosts complement ours." Julian pauses, eyes half lowered. "You can't overwrite her code. You can't patch centuries of survival wiring with kindness or logic. She doesn't think like you, not because she's broken, but because she was built for a different world. And so were you. He looks up at the faint light crawling over the horizon. She runs on emotion. You run on direction. Her mind searches for connection. Yours searches for meaning. Neither is wrong until one tries to become the other. The camera drifts closer. His voice softens into a tone somewhere between confession and absolution. Understanding her won't save you, but it might set you free from the madness of trying to make emotions obey logic. A faint piano note fades in beneath his words, sparse and melancholic. You see, this isn't about gender. It's about evolution colliding with consciousness, about human beings trying to love with nervous systems that were never designed for peace. Julian steps into the light now, face clear. So don't hate her, he says. And don't worship her either. Just see her. Understand that what you're facing isn't deceit, it's design. She runs her code, you run yours. The only freedom is awareness. He stops walking. The music fades to silence. Once you see the pattern, he says, almost to himself, you stop trying to win the game. You start writing your own. He turns away from the camera as the first sunlight spills across the street. Maybe love isn't about merging codes, he whispers. Maybe it's about learning to run parallel, close enough to touch, but free enough to remain human.